special edition, everybody. This is Amogh Lila Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
a friend of mine who has a subscriber base of more than 2 million YouTube subscribers on his channel, My Ashraya. And we're going to talk. We're going to talk about Krishna. We're here in Mayapur.
Yes, I'm also very happy to have such a lovely friend, a spiritual friend in my life in the form of Chandrasekhar Prabhu. He is a graduate from Oxford in religion, now practicing bhakti from past 30 years and has distributed hundreds and thousands of books, millions of books across USA. Yes, and it's so much of endearing work, at the same time hard work to go and reach out to people with spiritual knowledge, with spiritual books on the ground, on the roads, giving them that spiritual message. It's not easy. And he has been one of the top spiritual book distributors, and that too not for himself, but just as a matter of compassion for everyone, that people get spiritual knowledge, they would be benefited. To have such a person today in this video together, wow, I'm sharing screen with him. Ooh.
On the contrary, my channel is really small. It's called American Krishna.
American Krishna is his channel, so please do subscribe to that channel. Great content, wonderful content. I love it, so you will also love it.
So my question, I mean, we know each other for years, but not super intimately. So I want to know, like, how did you get involved in utilizing modern technology in the service of Krishna?
Yes. So it all started during COVID. At that time, it was a lockdown. We thought that we should get into this online preaching. Before that, we were doing, but people were still coming for online classes. But yes, especially during COVID, people liked our Ramayana series and Mahabharata series, but because somehow people like stories, and during difficult times, people want to hear something more spiritual.
So you were telling telling stories online.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. So, and then of course, relevant content, sometimes even little controversial content, addressing some of the controversies rightly. Sometimes I also got stuck in controversies. That was also part of it.
Yeah, like about a year ago, there was some big one. I was backing you up, though. I was like, what's wrong with, because I think you were, making a critique of someone who's a little bit too much of an Advaita Vedantist, right? Or something like that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, but yes, but that's part of the game. Actually. You get all different flavors once you get onto the internet.
Did you ever get death threats?
No, not really. Yeah, a couple of them.
Really?
I saw one video of a person with a trident in his hand and said, "Oh, Amogh Lila, that Amogh Lila, the day I meet him, I'll kill him."
Really?
Yeah, he was angry with me. But yes, but generally, of course, there are no death threats as such. And in fact, people, in case they disagree with me, they still say, okay, I disagree with you, but they still respect me. So that's the beauty of our culture, that people still
in the best of days.
Yeah, in the best of the days. Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes all cultures have bad days.
Yeah, that's true. So we like to hear about from you as well. That how come this American Krishna, such an interesting name, American Krishna.
Well, there's Indian Christians.
Oh yeah.
Right, and Indian Muslims and American Christians. So why not American Krishna? Not in the sense that Bhagavan Shri Krishna is American, but the practitioner, the devotee of Krishna, who is also known as like in America, someone who practices Vaishnavism, they're sometimes known as the Hare Krishnas or the Krishnas. So it's in that sense, I'm an American Krishna. Not that I am Krishna or that Krishna is American. Obviously, Krishna is Krishna, nothing more, nothing less. But I was born in America, and so therefore I like to identify culturally, externally, as an American with a French background. My father was French. I grew up in Paris.
Okay.
But in terms of theology, in terms of practice, I identify with the Bhagavad Gita. I identify with the teachings of Krishna. I identify with believing in this divine couple, Radha Krishna.
Wow, that's quite interesting. So what are some of the intriguing questions which you have addressed, and you also liked addressing them, and the audience also loved it?
Well, the identity of, like, for example, the relationship of Christ and Krishna.
Oh, yes.
And in India, this is also relevant for you, because there's so many Hindus who are converting to Christianity, isn't it? And in a way, that's nice, because, any sort of monotheism is good. But I have a couple of issues. One is in terms of lifestyle. The lifestyle generally goes down a rank, and that has to do specifically with meat eating. Because for most Christians, meat eating is okay.
Yeah.
For us Vaishnavas, meat eating is a sin. And secondly, it's sad when I see, let's say, a Hindu who may not know about Krishna, but then who becomes a Christian and then starts thinking it's okay to kill muttons or chickens or even cows in many cases and eat them. For me, that's a tragedy. And also in terms of identity of, like, okay, Christ talked about the Father. Who's the Father? Like, I grew up as a Catholic and hearing about the Father, okay, the Son and the Father are one, Jesus. But who is that Father? Ooh. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Aham bija pradak pita.
Wow, yes.
Pita. Tell your audience what this shloka means. Aham bija pradak pita.
Yes. I'm the seed-giving Father. The Son says, I'm the Son. Father says, I'm Father. So that way, it is so very clear. But still, sometimes those who are narrow-minded, those who are somewhat fanatics in their attitude and their perspectives, they may not accept it. But still, fact remains
Shastra.
Yeah, Shastra. Absolutely. So being in USA and you have seen that culture. So how do you see the potential of spirituality, especially Krishna consciousness? Because we have seen some of the videos where people are sitting in auditorium, they're singing Hare Krishna. In fact, some of the churches, they're inviting Hare Krishna devotees before their Sunday Mass. So from my perspective, I see that there is a lot of potential of devotion, especially when there is an era of unclarity. If anyone who brings such clear-cut philosophy, whether at political platform like we had Vivek Ramaswamy, or
I was just thinking, and you have Tulsi Gabbard, and you have the wife of J.D. Vance, who's Uma Vance. She's a Hindu Vaishnava. You have the head of the FBI, Kash Patel, who's also a Gujarati Vaishnava. He's a Jai Shri Krishna. So that's a really good sign for the U.S. government.
Absolutely. So that means people are seeking clarity. People who are having clear vision, clarity in their head, such leaders are required. So how do you see what's the potential of spirituality, especially Krishna consciousness in US?
I think there's a great potential if, and I think there's a big if. The if is that, and I think that's something that we may have underestimated so far in the short 50 years of the Hare Krishna movement in the West. And that is that Americans in general will, there is because you could always say, what is American culture? Just like in India, there's Gujarat, there's South India, there's so many different cultural dialects and so on. But you can speak still, though, of a general Indian ethos. So in a similar way, and more so in America because there's less variety, there's only one language in America, you can speak of a general mainstream culture, a way of eating, a way of dressing, language. And I think that there's great hope for Americans accepting more and more that Krishna is God, and that chanting Krishna's name is the best way to develop love for Krishna, and and the belief in past lives and future lives and karma and the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. If they can somehow remain culturally American.
I see.
Because if we expect majority, some Americans like yoga, like Indian culture, like Indian food and so on, but not most of them. Most Americans are very simple, who just like their, American football and are very stuck in their American culture. And of course, we don't want them to eat meat. We want them to avoid taking drugs. We want them to have, sensual relationships only within marriage. We want them to not gamble. But just the cultural side, I think there's great hope if we can somehow present Krishna consciousness as a science that they can incorporate into their own American lives. And the same thing is, and that's what actually Christian preachers are doing in India. See, they're telling people in South India, you don't have to stop wearing your dhotis and your saris and eating your what is that, sambar and etc. Just put Christ in your life. So I think the same thing has to happen in America. Like, you can continue being an American with your American way of life, just, follow these 4 rules we follow, and put Krishna into your life. And I think there is great hope. There is great hope.
So what all ISKCON is doing, like I see sometimes devotees are having such spiritual concerts, or sometimes even spiritual rock shows, and sometimes
here you have the Madhava's rock band.
Of course, here we have Madhava's rock band. So what all ISKCON is doing in USA, so as we can customize Krishna consciousness in a way it is very connecting. At the same time, essential principles are there to bless them. So what all we are doing in USA?
How are we doing it?
How are we doing it?
There's different projects. The Bhakti Center in New York is very successful.
Yes, I heard about it.
There's a lot of like mantra lounges or mantra houses. There's a Krishna house where college students can live in the sort of, it's kind of the modern equivalent of the Gurukul of mentioned in the Puranas, but they just go to University of Florida or University of California instead. But they stay in an ashram where they have a minimum amount of sadhana, and at the same time they go and study. Here, don't you have these
like bases?
Bases.
Yes. Like we have bases sometimes outside the colleges where the students, they can come, they can stay. They have morning program, but rest of the day we facilitate them in the best possible way that they can study nicely. Especially students like food. In a mess, food is a mess. So they want some delicious food. So sometimes even we sponsor prasadam for them. Like in Indian food, they like chole bhature. So they like it. So we just sponsor it. That day, there is no pravachan, no education, nothing, just feasting. And we meet them personally, and then there is connect with some of the students. And then some of them, they also come to our base. So they also get some spiritual flavor at the same time. It's a very good facility for studying, because in hostel, there are friends, there are, it's gossiping thing, and a lot of time
more than gossip.
No, more than gossip, yes. Especially when it goes vulgar in terms of gossip.
Amogh, Lila, I want to know your story. Your subscribers already know your story different, but tell me in a few minutes. What was your background before you came to the shelter of Krishna? How that happened?
I was an explorer. So I left home at the age of 19 in search of God.
And where was home?
My home was in Delhi. So I left
You're a
Delhi.
Delhi-wala.
Yes, a Delhi-wala. Typical Delhi-wala. So I left Delhi. I went to Jaipur. I went to Mount Abu. I went to Dwarka, Gujarat. And then I went
alone.
Alone.
With a backpack or what?
No backpack. Just
and some
shirt and
money.
pant. No money.
No.
No money. I was just living, begging.
Really?
If you can kindly help me In a train, I would sit next to the wash basin so that the TT doesn't ask me anything. And sometimes I would dodge TT, then go to next place. Sometimes I'll go and eat in dhabas, or sometimes in gurdwaras. I would eat, or in case if I'm very hungry, so there is a person who is selling cucumber, tomato. I would request, can I get one cucumber? I'm very hungry. So out of mercy, he would give me one cucumber. In this way, I was going from one place to another place in search of God. So then I went to South India, and then I came back to Rishikesh and Haridwar. So I prayed to Mother Ganges. Oh, Mother Ganges, I left my home in search of a spiritual teacher.
And your parents, they were, what kind of Hindus they were?
They were typical North Indian Hindus, pious people, but not really in terms of being rigid practitioners.
And in terms of philosophy, like...
philosophy, the general Hindu philosophy. Having, all demigods, basically our gods, we should respect all of them. So they were God believers, living a pious life, vegetarian.
Oh, so you grew up vegetarian?
Yeah. So that phase. So after exploring, then finally I prayed to Mother Ganges. And then I saw some devotees from Europe wearing dhoti kurta, tilak, chanting Hare Krishna. This was astonishing for me. Shocking revelation. That
the dancing white elephant.
Dancing white elephant.
The dancing white elephant. Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement. and I feel ambivalent. I mean, I am like 90% I love it, but 10% in a soft way, I feel a little bit like, I mean, if I could be close, if Prabhupada was here and I was close to him, I'd be like, Prabhupada, like, I'm not a dancing white elephant. I'm a human, for one thing. But he used this. The elephant is always fascinating. So imagining a dancing elephant, and if he's a white elephant, it's like super fascinating. So, so Prabhupada used his Western or white disciples to spark a revival of Krishna Bhakti among Indians in India, isn't it?
Yes, that's true.
I mean, I was looking at footage today of Vrindavan in Prabhupada walking in 1973. Complete just forest, and now you see Rishikesh, Vrindavan, tons of people, which is good in a way.
Yeah, that's true. And now, in fact, Rishikesh is getting revived, because earlier people used to come for spiritual emancipation, but later on it got transformed into more of party thing, river rafting, rock climbing, and all of this. In fact, youngsters, sometimes they have their beer cans, they cool down their beer cans in Ganges.
Oh, man.
Har Har Gange, oh Mother Ganges ki jai. And then in this way they do, which is atrocious. Bad, actually. So, but yes, now by the efforts of the Hare Krishna devotees led by His Holiness Radhanath Swami, the journey home, now efforts are...
That book had such an effect.
Oh, yes. So now people are coming to spirituality as well, gradually. As he's planning for Eco Village. They got 4 acres of land.
In Rishikesh.
In Rishikesh. So that the Westerners, they can come for spiritual experience in India. And most of the people who are now in touch of this program are from Western world. And they are liking it so much. It's yoga plus bhakti yoga. It's awesome.
It is.
Yeah. So this way I see that there is a lot of potential.
So you saw sort of your story. So you saw these devotees, these white dancing elephants, and you're like, wow. And then what happened?
So I was very hungry. So they were distributing khichdi prasadam. So I took khichdi too.
Who are they? I'm curious.
I didn't know them.
You don't know which group they're from, or?
But they were ISKCON devotees. They were Hare Krishna.
But this was like 20 plus years ago.
Oh yes, it was year 2000.
Wow, 25 years ago.
Yeah. So then they answered all of my questions. Before that, I would meet any spiritual.
And you see, what I like is that he wasn't racist.
Yeah.
No, seriously, because and everybody can be racist, but when you really are on the spiritual platform, you see someone else as a spiritual person, as a spiritual being, and you get knowledge from him or her, regardless of what skin color they have or what caste they're from or anything.
Yeah.
And so the fact that Amogh Lila approached these Americans or Europeans or white people and just heard them, regardless of their background or what color of skin, to me that means a lot. And I say this because, for example, in India, there's some temples, we won't mention, some areas where unless you have brown skin and you were born here, you can't go inside the temple.
Yeah. Like we have Jagannath temple.
He mentions it.
But there is a chronicle behind it. Why do they do so? In there, some of the chronicles, it is mentioned that sometime in future, people from the West will come, will take away their Jagannath to Odisha, and then we lose our Jagannath. So out of love, they have done this restriction. Okay, no person from foreign land should come to our temple. They may take away our Jagannath. But of course, the sad part is that some of the very sincere practitioners, elevated devotees are also not allowed just because of their foreign origin.
Yeah.
But yes.
So you saw them, they answered you on the basis of Shastra.
Oh yeah. And very scientific, logical answers, very satisfying answers to my questions. So I felt satisfied because before this, I could meet any spiritual teacher. They would say, have faith, man. Have faith. Why are you asking so many questions? I said, just answer my questions. I'll give my life. But they would say, have faith. Don't ask questions. But here they were encouraging questions. You ask more. And then they redirected me back to Delhi. So it was like a garland.
Oh, so your parents must have been
back
happy.
to square one. Of course, they were very happy. So I joined the temple, ISKCON East of Kailash, Delhi, for a few months. And then devotees told me, since you are quite young, you are just 12th pass, you just passed your schooling. So you should go back and resume your studies. So then I went back, I did my computer science engineering, worked outside as a coder, as a programmer for some time. I took a VRS as a project manager, and then joined back again after 10 years of my graduation and job, 4 and 6, 10 years again as a monk. And here I am in American Krishna.
And then so the YouTube, what gave you the inspiration to start doing YouTube in the first place?
Actually, this Hare Krishna TV, they have ISKCON Desire Tree. When they came to Mayapur, where we are sitting now, so they said, can you shoot some videos of yours? I said, I'm such a junior person. Why you want to shoot my videos? There are many senior devotees. You please shoot their videos. They said, okay, we'll shoot theirs as well, but you can also be part of it. So then some videos of mine were shot and good viewership was there. So then again they came back. So in this way, it all started. But yes, my Ashraya started somewhere around 2018 or so. But primarily during COVID time, people were inside, they were ready for spiritual education. And he said, okay, we are also ready. So we geared up, and then by God's grace, Krishna's mercy, results came.
So if you're, I don't want to be the one telling your subscribers what to do, but the fact that you're subscribed to his channel shows that you have, but take your spirituality seriously, take your devotion to Krishna seriously. That's what I tell people in India in general. Like if people from America, from very far away, who spend, I'll tell you, it's funny, I remember this, Paramatma sometimes reminds, I guess. So, no, but listen, I used to do proselytizing. I used to distribute Bhagavad Gitas in Los Angeles airport.
Wow.
Which was before the the 9/11. So we were allowed to go inside the airport and distribute Bhagavad Gitas. And so there would be passengers from all over the world, including from India.
Okay.
And so every time some family would come from India, I would, roll up my sleeves, and I would approach them, and I would know exactly what they were going to say. I would show them the Bhagavad Gita, and every time the answer, oh, Bhagavad Gita, we know it.
Yeah.
We are knowing, or we know it.
Yeah.
So then I got to a point, I was like, okay, what's your favorite shloka? And they were shocked that someone is asking them, what is it? And then I noticed that most of them, after scrambling, they would say, yada yada hi dharmasya. So I noticed that they were saying this, and I realized, wait, they're saying yada yada because of the Doordarshan Mahabharata series. So then every time Indians would come and say, okay, oh, I know in Bhagavad Gita, okay, what's your favorite shloka? But you cannot say yada hi dharmasya.
Then you are stuck.
And they were stuck.
Yes.
They were stuck. And so my point is like, you guys, fly all the way to Los Angeles to go see Donald Duck at Disneyland.
Yeah.
And you come from Delhi, and you can take a 100 rupee train to Mathura Vrindavan, which, your own scriptures claim is the most exalted place in the universe, where the Lord himself, from whom everything emanates, descended, as the original avatari right on planet Earth. And he chose Mathura and Vrindavan, and you've never been. Yeah. And so it's like, don't complain then if there's, a growth of Islam in India, or if there's, a takeover by the Christians. It's your fault because you're not embracing your own religion, your own shastra, your own practice.
Very true. And because of this complacent attitude, we know. So somewhere that shows arrogance. At the same time, that shows that how hollow and shallow we are. And that's why people get converted as well. Yeah. All across the globe, whosoever has read Bhagavad Gita, they have appreciated it. Whether it is Will Smith, whether Julia Roberts, whether Tom Cruise. Internationally, we see there are people who have got little bit of inclination, philosophical inclination. They like Srimad Bhagavad Gita because it is the most secular book on the planet. Lord Krishna never said, Arjuna, just because you are Hindu, so I'm speaking Gita to you. He's addressing the soul, and soul is not American, soul is not Indian, soul is not Pakistani, or Afghanistani, or Russian, or European. Soul is soul, and Lord Krishna is addressing the soul. So somewhere, when we are not reading Bhagavad Gita, which is the manual of life, we are doing injustice to our own selves. Whenever we use a car, we use a manual. After every 15,000 kilometers or 10,000 kilometers or 5,000 kilometers, go for servicing. So we take the car, we treat the car as per the manual. But we don't treat life as per the manual. And manual is Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And here is an example. Chandrasekhar Prabhu, he has read Bhagavad Gita and he's spreading the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita through his channel, 1-to-1 as well, in USA. Wow. In fact, all across the globe. Currently, he's in Mayapur. We are having the Mayapur festival. So this is real United Nations. Yes, we all are united, although we are coming from different nationalities, but we are together. Yeah. But what binds us together is this spiritual knowledge, the knowledge of the soul, because at the core, he's also soul, I'm also soul, and all those who are watching, you are also soul. People have no idea about soul. Soul means that which is underneath the shoe, that's the soul. Yeah, leather soul, PVC soul. There is a spirit soul as well. So Bhagavad Gita. So how is your experience of reading Bhagavad Gita?
I love it. I love the Gita. I have so many favorite shlokas in the Gita.
Wow.
We could speak forever. The fundamental one about the body and the soul, not being the body, the soul, dehinosmin yatadehe, those shlokas at the beginning of the second chapter about how the soul reincarnates from body to body.
Yeah.
That was such an eye-opener for me because that's exactly what I was kind of looking for. I was, I like Catholicism, but the idea of past lives that I had heard about in Buddhism intrigued me. But I hadn't, opened the doors to Hinduism yet. And I started with books like Paramahamsa Yogananda's autobiography, Yogi, some Advaita Vedanta stuff, which, we respect as Vaishnavas, but which we don't get a lot of rasa from because we prefer having a personal relationship with Krishna, right? With the person Krishna.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, there's so many shlokas. Maybe we could do another episode one time where we share our favorite shlokas, but in short, the idea that God himself, the Supreme Person, is speaking. You don't really see this in any other monotheistic scripture.
Oh, yes.
Right? God speaks through the Ten Commandments, through some burning bush, in the Old Testament. Okay. But again, what is the identity of that Supreme Person? And maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right. We believe it's right. We believe it corresponds to reality. It is such a revolutionary proposition that here is the claim that that Supreme Person is Sri Krishna. Wow. Wow.
And mostly we see that some prophet or messenger is speaking, but here God
God himself
is speaking. And that's a flawless philosophy. Nobody can find out a single mistake in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. There's no enlarged edition, revised edition. No.
And the three gunas? I really like this, the notion of the three gunas. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas living. And that's why the problem with India is because it is happening, in my opinion, that people are becoming more and more, are living more and more in Rajaguna and Tamaguna. They're giving up the vegetarian lifestyle, they're giving up, they're taking more and more intoxicants, having immoral relationships, gambling, and that degrades individual consciousness and it degrades the entire community of India.
When I was in USA, I had one colleague, she was also a coder, a programmer, her name was Carrie. So when she shifted to vegetarianism because her child was sick, and that's why she said that if you pray for my child, I would be very grateful to you. I said, okay, Carrie, but you have to carry your promise that you have to give up that which is your favorite. She said, okay, I'll give up meat eating. I said, okay, all right. So I prayed to Lord Krishna, and by God's grace, her daughter was fine. So I said, so Carrie, now carry your promise. She said, okay, done. So then she shifted to vegetarian food. Of course, every day bringing salad was very boring for her. So I took her to a South Indian restaurant, and then she liked it very much. This idli, vada, dosa, sambar, she liked it very much. So after 15 days, she had a revelation. She said that although I shifted to vegetarian food because of my daughter, but after these 15 days, I can experience there is a peace at the back of the mind. There was a constant agitation I could experience. But now that agitation, that disturbance is not there. I thought that's part of my existence, but actually that was not. It was because of the food which I was eating. And thank you very much for bringing vegetarian food in my life. And of course, I love the South Indian food. She learned it. She brought idli, vada for me. And she was learning dosa at that time. So shifting to vegetarian food actually brings sattva. Otherwise, there is rajas and tamas. Rajas, there is passion, restlessness. In tamas, you feel dull or unnecessarily becoming angry. But sattva keeps us tranquil. And this happens with the food, because garbage in, garbage out, nectar in, nectar out. So sometimes people say, what goes inside is not important. What comes outside is very important. Excuse me, sir. What goes inside is what comes outside. So it's very important in case you want to live a sattvic lifestyle, having a sattvic lifestyle, what we are taking in, not just by having a food from mouth, but also food from the ears, food from the nose. And that means what you smell, what you listen, what you see, what you touch, what you taste. It all really matters because these are like USB ports. Mine is like hard disk.
Totally.
So what we are taking inside through these USB ports, C-type ports, be very, very conscious.
And therefore Krishna says, Man manabhava mad bhakto madhyaji, think of me. That's why he appears in the murti form, so our eyes can see the form of Radha Krishna. And those of you who are listening right now, you can binge on Amogh Lila's videos and continue hearing about Krishna. And, and read Bhagavad Gita and chant Krishna's name. And in this way, you keep ingesting spiritual food, so to speak. So precisely as Amogh Lila says, what comes out of you is not just sattvic, but is imbued with the grace of God, with the grace of Krishna.
Yeah,
and that makes everyone happy. So
very true. And sattva becomes like a stepping stone to divinity. Without being sattva, we can't be into divinity, which is beyond three modes. That's ecstatic state of existence. But first we have to become conscious. Then we can be Krishna conscious. So being conscious comes at the level of sattva. For that, we have to live a sattvic lifestyle, and that comes by the food, what is going inside. That's very, very vital. We can't take eating and sleeping so cheaply. It's very important. It's a foundation of good spiritual life. And then ecstatic spiritual life, not static life, ecstatic life.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chandrasekhar Prabhu. So happy to be with you. I got your association and hoping to have your association in near future as well.
I hope so too. I hope so too.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on also. And
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. So, dear devotees, everyone, I request you, please kindly subscribe to American Krishna.
And continue watching Amogh Lila's videos. And if you're watching on my channel, my Ashraya.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.